It's time once again for Closing the Wealth Gap. The one show, maybe the only show that shows you how to close the wealth gap in your own life. With the man who's done it for many, our wealth coach himself, Tyrone French. Hey, Tyrone.
Paul, hey, how's it going, buddy? How you doing, man?
Well, I'm always thinking I'm doing good, and then I listen to your show and I go, "Wait a minute, I'm losing ground. The wealth gap's getting bigger here. I thought everything was getting better. I thought we're closing the wealth gap."
No, we actually then you're going in the wrong direction, my friend. We need to close that gap.
I know.
Hey, and one of the best ways to close the gap, when a lot of people are talking about right now, is the rising consumer price index. And to make it a better, just to consolidate that word, inflation.
Yeah. What happened to that?
Inflation.
That's a scary. I remember the '80s and inflation, and all of a sudden everything is cost twice as many dollars to buy the same thing.
Well, let's put it into the proper perspective. Let's say you had $1 back in 2010, because again, people hear that word, consumer price index, inflation, but they don't understand the cause-effect relationship of that word and what it's literally doing.
I sure don't. Why have we lived without inflation? Why does the Fed think a little bit of inflation is good? And why are we now scared that we're going to get rapid inflation and everything's going to jump in price?
Well, think about that again, going back to 2010. If you had $1 back in 2010 and you bought what that dollar could buy in 2010, well, fast forward to 2021, you would need $2 to buy that same thing that $1 bought in 2010. Why is that critical based on the consumer price index and inflation? Because wages have been stagnant.
Yeah, but keep saying that.
And so if, people, politicians keep talking about, or some keep talking about having a national minimum wage, and, you got pros and cons against it. But what's happening is if people are not making more money, and it's the issue is that the dollar is being devalued. The dollar is worth less and less over time. So if you don't have that orchestrated balance as far as, the type of investments that you're making, that's getting a nice return on those dollars, that's multiplying those dollars, in the future, you have less purchasing power, meaning that if you don't have the money to buy those things, you have to buy less. Now, this is what manufacturers are doing. Manufacturers really don't want to increase the price of their goods and services because they want to they want to scale their business. They want it to grow. So they don't necessarily want to increase their prices because somebody else will lower their price. Mm-hmm. What they're doing is they're cutting back on the goods and services that they offer for that same price. Let me give you a perfect example. You walk into a grocery store and you buy a bag of potato chips.
Yes.
And on that bag of potato chips, it may say 99 cents or 149 or whatever. But when you open up the bag, you only have a quarter of the product.
That's right. All air. It's all puffed up air. And you open the bag and it deflates and there's like, where's the chips?
But the thing is, we don't think about, like the Wendy's commercial. Years ago, where's the beef? Remember that?
Right. Yeah, where's the beef?
They would open up the bread. Where's the beef? Well, we don't ask ourselves when we open up the bag of potatoes, where are the potato chips? Mm-hmm. Where are the cookies? Where are the Pop-Tarts? So what they're doing is when you open up these packages now, you'll see.
You just listed my three favorite foods, by the way: potato chips, Pop-Tarts, and cookies. I mean,
same here, buddy.
Yeah.
I gotta admit it. You open up my pantry and you'll it's well stocked.
Yeah.
But my point is, when I open up that box, I always either smile or I grimace.
Yeah.
Because I understand what inflation is doing based on the packaging. What they're doing is they're making the packages larger, and so you're getting the illusion that you're getting more, but when you open it up, there's less inside. And the issue is, we don't question that as consumers.
Okay, I'll tell you one quick funny story. My late father used to bemoan the fact that he had to pump his own gas back in the 70s when that started to become common. There was a time when the little guy came out and pumped the gas for you with a little outfit on here. And he said He said, did the price of gas go down when we started pumping it ourselves? No, it went up. He said, those bastards, they got me to do all the work and charged me twice as much.
But when they first started, they had two signs. One was full service and one was
Yes.
self-service
Yeah.
or self-serve. And
Right.
so if it was self-serve, you got a little bit of a break
Yes.
if you were willing to get out of your car and pump your gas. But as you know, just like any other norm, the longer they continued that process, then all of a sudden they took away the full service, self-service became the norm, and then they started charging you more money because why? You're hooked on the product.
Yeah. Right.
You need gas.
Right.
You need electricity. You need water. You need all of these things to exist.
And they're always trying to find ways to make more money. So they're either going to increase the price or they're going to decrease the products and service. You're going to get less cookies in the box here, or both. And that's what my father complained about. They did both. They cut back the service, you got less, and they charged more for it.
And again, over a period of time, that becomes the norm. I mean, remember this thing about McDonald's. I mean, they used to run commercials. They prided themselves on giving change back for a hamburger, bag of fries,
Yeah,
and
right.
a drink.
Right.
And it's like the person would put their money and they turn around and leave, and the guy or the woman, whoever was at the counter would say, "Excuse me, sir, your change."
Yeah. Ooh, I got change back on that $5 or something here. But that's when they started the "Where's the beef" competitive ad. Yeah, you may do it, but open up the bun. Where's the beef, buddy? There's no beef in there. They've shrunk it so much.
So why? It's like when you look at what's going on with the federal government now and these relief packages. And people talk about the spending and how big these packages are.
Trillions.
Now, but see, in order to jumpstart the economy, just like with a pump, I grew up in the South.
Yes.
I was born in Alabama. My grandparents, lived on this huge spread, and I remember they used to have, to get water, they used to have to pump it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would, some days we'd be out there as kids running around, and all of a sudden, it's hot and you get thirsty, and you go over to that pump and you try to pump the water the same way grandma did, but guess what? Nothing came out.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I had to learn was that, hey, you got to prime the pump first. Mm-hmm. So you got to take a little bit of primer water, put it down in, and then start pumping, and then wait for that water to come out. And it was some of the best and sweetest water.
I'll bet. You're going way back. This is like you might as well live in the 1800s or something. I've never seen people prime a pump. I don't know. What do you know how to put shoes on horses too and stuff here? This is the Wayback Machine. Nobody's ever seen one of those anymore.
I remember when they used to have the cow out there for the milk. Oh. And the cow had a little salt lick, and it would lick the salt, the whole farm 9 yards. But my point is, the economy sometimes requires the same thing. It requires priming.
Yes.
And so you have to, it's like a huge influx of cash so consumers can start spending again.
But here's the question to the coach. So now I'm reading about inflation, this ugly thing I haven't seen in 20, 30, 40 years since the Jimmy Carter years when inflation took off and suddenly everything cost 2, 3, 4 times. Cars, houses, education, everything. My dollars didn't go up. I didn't make more of them, but everything, they didn't buy as much. Took more of them to buy something. And that fear has been, overwhelming since then. Anybody who grew up in it, sort of like the Great Depression, the Great Recession, those inflationary years that wiped out your savings. Your savings aren't worth as much. Your salary's not worth as much. And so what we're suddenly afraid of is because we poured so much money in, everybody's saying, look out, inflation. Talk about that. Are we really looking at inflation, and how does that work? Why does that work?
It's what it does, Paul, when you flood the economy with dollars, with currency.
Right.
See, the society or the population, really, they confuse currency and money. And we need to really define, there's a huge difference between money and currency. So what you're getting now is these Federal Reserve notes, which is a fiat currency, which is it's not backed by gold or silver. What it's backed by
is the
good faith of the United States government. But see, the government doesn't pay for anything. It's the taxpayers
right.
that pay for everything. So the dollar is based on the good faith of the American people paying their taxes. And so that now the IRS can collect those taxes and send it to the treasurer, and the treasury can send that money out to different programs, whereas you keep everything running. But Paul,
Right.
here's the problem: a lot of people will assume that it's the government by itself that's causing the money to be devalued or to lose its purchasing power,
I hear that
and
all
it's
the
not.
time because they're printing too much of it. It's funny money. It's monopoly money. It's not real anymore. It's too much of
But
it.
it's Paul, but it's really nobody's thinking about the central bank and the role that the central bank plays as far as when you're looking at currency, and it's the banks that's really it's called fractional reserve banking. All that means is that let's say you take $1
Okay.
and or you take $100 and put it into your savings account. Well, now the bank can literally your account will show $100, but they're literally taking $90 and loaning that money out. So they're creating money,
Yes.
right? They're creating currency out of thin air.
So let me stop you for a second because you're confusing me and you may be losing some people. So let's just go through this. So you're saying the government says to the bank, here's we're going to print some more money. We're going to put some more money in circulation, and then the bank, you put that in the bank because you want it to be safe. You don't stick it in a mattress, and the bank takes 90% of that or whatever, some percent, and they don't just put it in their account. The way they make money is they take your money and reloan it to other people here, and the feds then decide how much they have to keep of that $100 in case of an emergency. Can they loan it all out, and then everybody runs to the bank and says, "Sorry, we gave it all out. It's not. It's all. None of it's here." How much do they have to keep as a reserve in case people want to run in and get their money back?
It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more detailed than that. So let me take it back a little bit. Let me take it just one step back.
Okay.
Take one step
Because
backwards.
I think everybody gets lost
If
in all this stuff here.
if the government issues bonds, which are IOUs,
Right.
and
Treasury
so
bonds, things
the
like that.
central bank, which goes back to the national debt. The central bank will buy these bonds, these treasury bonds, which is the central bank, which is the Fed, is the biggest holder of bonds of the federal government. Number one, it's not China. It's the United. It's the
I always
Federal
heard it was
Reserve.
China. I thought they're the ones that are buying up all our bonds, all our promissory notes, all our debt.
It's the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
So the Federal Reserve Bank has an account. There's nothing in that account. What they do is they write a check, and so when they write that check, they're giving all of this money to the United States Treasury, so the Treasury can put that money into circulation. But the bank do the same thing based on credit in dollars.
And
So
how
if
and how much they're allowed to lend out, how much the feds regulate, how much they have to keep in hard dollars in the vault, or how much of that they can give out to everybody else. What percentage of your money they have to
well,
keep?
it
The
varies, but the
reserve.
but the standard percentage is 10%.
Okay.
And so but again, if you got all of this money that's out there circulating again, which is fractional reserve banking, you got all this money out there circulating. You have IOUs in your account, so you may have $10 physically in the account, but there's a $90 IOU that says that you have $100. So that's why when there's financial distress, you don't if everybody went to the bank and tried to get their money out at one time, they couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. That's whatever. It's amen to that. I'm. People don't realize the bank isn't just sitting. When you give them the money, you give them a hard dollars or whatever you think. This is what I got. This little pieces of paper and coins. They don't just put them all in the vault and hold it for you. They take that money and reloan it to other people. So if we all came in at once, it ain't there.
But they reloan it at a higher interest rate.
Yes, right. That's
So
how they make
now
money.
that's their income producing asset. So they make on your savings, you may be getting less than 1%. But on that credit, when they're loaning out that money, whether it's a credit card or a loan, personal loan, business loan, they're getting 10, 15, 20, 30% off of it.
They're doing well.
They're doing well. They're not
hurting.
hurting for any stretch of the imagination. But what happens, Paul, and every dollar that is in circulation is earning interest. To who? To the banks.
Yeah, not to me.
And again, I'm not mad
That
at them.
money's not working for me. I give it to them and it works for them.
I'm not mad at them for making money. That's the process. It's our system. It's what we have. Uh, but you have currency and then you have credit. All of this currency and all of this credit causes the money to be diluted, which is again is being devalued. And it affects your purchasing power in the future. So if your wages have stagnant, meaning that most people have one source of income, or if it's a husband and wife, you have two sources of income. 9 times out of 10, now that is not enough just to have a decent standard of living. Why? Because of the monetary devaluation, or the money has been watered down to whereas you need more of those dollars.
Now let's go one step further. So that's the way the system's been since the 40s or whenever they established the Fed, the 30s or whatever it was.
Since 1913.
In 1913, that's the way the system's been set. It wasn't always that way in George Washington's time or other Abraham Lincoln's time, but that's the way it's been since 1913, the Federal Reserve, and everything you just said. But if the Federal Reserve puts too much money in, prints too much, loans too much, infuses too much into the thing, then the theory is what? Everybody's got more money to spend. They all run out and do it. And then supply and demand. Suddenly everybody wants to buy a phone, and I only got so many of them, and there's more customers, then the price goes up.
That's the illusion.
That's
See, the illusion is the illusion of wealth,
right.
the illusion of prosperity. When a lot of times that sugar high is really
right.
credit. They're
Yeah.
using credit as that sugar high. And so the reason that we have these boom and bust cycles.
Always.
And so in that boom and bust cycle, what happens when you go bust, then the first thing that dries up is credit.
Yeah.
And
I
so
found that
now-
out when I went through my credit problems in the Great Recession, and suddenly, I'm in trouble and I almost lost my house and blah, 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 and all these things because I lost my income and my business was suffering. And I couldn't get credit. I said, hey, I've been good for it for 20 years. I had stellar credit. Now, the banks were literally calling me up and saying, even though you haven't defaulted, we're taking that credit away. We're reducing your credit card limit. We're closing your accounts. I'm like, I need the credit now because
Right.
I got to borrow some money to cover this problem here, this shortage of income. Let me go borrow some. No, you can't get credit when you need it. Now, I'm sorry to say, I don't need any credit. I don't use any credit. I've owned my house forever. I own my car. I've got money in the bank. I've gotten back in better financial terms, and now I get flooded with have another credit card. Let me raise it.
Exactly.
Let me double it. Let me triple. I'm like, I don't use the credit cards I got.
The best time to try to borrow money from the bank is when you don't need it.
That's the insanity of it. That's the insanity of it. When I
that's-
needed it, they wouldn't give it to me. When I don't
that's
need
the
it,
business model because you're less of a risk.
right?
But Paul, again, what happens is when they start tightening it down on credit and the money supply, the dollars stop. They're not. It's called velocity. They're not circulating as fast.
Yeah, right.
Then people stop spending money, and if they stop spending money, what happens to those prices? Those prices start to come down. So again, it's a cause and effect relationship. But what I'm telling my viewers is that inflation is not going to go away, based on our monetary system, which is not changing anytime soon.
No.
You're always going to have these boom and bust cycles. So the way that you have to to balance that out is by either increasing your income or decreasing your expenses. And that goes to managing. You have to get to the point where you're managing your finances to whereas just like a business wants to scale, or businesses, they invest in research and development so that they can continue to grow and
But
add
how
different
do I
products and different
increase?
services.
This is the fundamental problem for 99% of the people listening to this. I kind of get what you're saying. I see this as this complicated system. I'm not sure I understand all of it, but you make it clearer to me. And you keep saying, increase your income. I can't. My job pays this. What do I go get a bigger job, a better job? Do I quit my job? I want to hold on to my job. I beg for a raise. I work harder hours. But my income is pretty fixed. I can't do much about it, or so I think.
There was a great business philosopher. His name was Jim Rohn. Rest in peace.
Hmm.
But one of his mentors, he had the same argument. Say, I don't. My job, won't pay me, more money. And it's like, this is my paycheck. This is all I get.
Right.
And so his mentor said, well, are there other people at that where you work? Are they making more money than you? And he had to admit, he said, yes. He said, so that's not all they pay. That's all they pay you.
Yeah.
So it's based on if your service or your value is limited, then your income structure is limited. And that case in point, if you're, and again, I'm not putting down baggers at grocery stores, but what I'm saying is that if you're the bagger at a grocery store and your function is to take the product and put it into the bag, then they're going to pay you based on that's what it would cost to replace you.
Hmm.
A brain surgeon will make more money in an hour than an auto mechanic could make,
Because
in a
he's
day.
got a rare skill, and I need that brain surgeon. A bagger, I can get anybody to do. And
So it goes back to your skill set, Paul. The reason you can start making more money by changing certain skill sets and doing or adding certain things. And let me tell you, the federal government, United States government, would rather for you to become an independent contractor or start your own small business as an entrepreneur than just having you to work on a job and to
really,
receive a paycheck.
you think they would not want that because paychecks are supposed to be predictable and forever, and entrepreneur is up and down and risky.
Well, if as an entrepreneur, you really literally can become a employer, and now you're employing people that
Yeah,
are
that's true.
paying income tax,
Creating more jobs, right?
creating more jobs. I mean, that's why a lot of people get breaks based on real estate because they're solving a problem. They're providing housing, and so the government will give them a tax break because they're providing housing.
So let me ask you the question as we come to the end of today's show here. What do you look into that crystal ball? That's what we're really hoping to hear today here. This talk of inflation in the air everywhere I go. They're putting too much money into the economy. Too many people are running out to buy stuff. It's going to drive prices up. It's already driving prices up. Gas has gone up. Food's gone up because of the short supply. We were all shut down for a while, and now we're opening, and there's not enough stuff. So is this a short-term production problem, and that's why prices have gone up? Or is it a long-term inflation risk, which many worry about, which means that my precious savings is going to be worth less?
It's always going to be an inflation problem because of the system. And so over a period of time, I mean, let me ask you a question. Do you think taxes in the future are going to go up or you think they're going to go down? They're going to go up.
Going to go up from the short run for
And
sure.
you look at the trend. You look at the trend based on the trend is your friend. So if you go
Trend
back
is your
from
friend. Okay.
go back 10 years from now versus now, it's been a steady, and now it vacillates, it goes up and down,
Hmm.
but the trend is that it's going to continue to go up.
Hmm.
Just like the monetary devaluation, the price of the dollar is going to continue to decline. So you're going to have more dollars in the future. So what I don't want people to focus on are the results. Because when you talk about higher gas prices and food prices and all these things, those are results.
Hmm.
I want them to focus on the cause. And so there's a word that I want people to start using. That word
Okay.
is synergy.
Synergy. Okay. Synergy.
Synergy. I want people to understand that you're gonna have to pair up. It's like if you were trying to make it with one income,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden now you have two incomes. That makes life a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
And then if you add a third income, it makes it a whole lot easier. And so look at like having a rope that has one strand, and that rope was limited based on that strand until you added another strand,
That's true. Gets
and it became
stronger, gets
stronger.
thicker. Yeah, right.
And then you added another strand. Now you got a three strand rope, and it'll do way more than that one strand. But that process of that rope coming together is called synergy. And so I want people to start thinking and look up that word, Google that word, um, and get that word in your lexicon and just start thinking about, forget about the result as far as these are the problems and everything that's going on. I want you to just think synergy, not energy, but synergy. And what forces do I have to come together to help me to, as a business owner, we're always talking about scaling, growing your business. What forces have to come together for me to increase my income?
That's the key. You keep harping that. You talk about second incomes, the gig economy. I got a part-time job. I got a business that produces not a passive income. It just provides income to me. I don't have to put much effort into it because I own that asset. It continues to make money for me, or a business or whatever. I think that's the focus of the future, because we can't seem to change the system. We can't. Taxes are going to go up. The dollar's going to buy less. It's just baked into the system here. So all we can do is stay ahead of this inflation by increasing our skills to get higher paid jobs, or increasing the synergy, the strands in our economic income package here.
Because once you start focusing on synergy, you're going to start asking yourself, how can I increase my service today? See, how can I increase my service today? Because it's that increase of service that's going to, and adding more value, that's going to increase your income.
So it's like the bagger. If he takes it out to the car, then he gets a tip.
Absolutely. And that's how people need to start thinking. How do I increase my service? How do I increase my value? And once you're on that track and you're thinking about that every single day, then you will have your mindset will begin to shift. You would have that paradigm shift, and then you'll start seeing opportunities that were always there that you just never took advantage of.
If people need some coaching on this, if they need some training, if they need some accountability, I said I'm going to do it, but I didn't do it. I say you get a coach, right? That's what professional athletes do.
Well, that's the synergy part of it.
Do we know any coaches out there who can help teach me this? I wish it says coach on your cap. Do you know any coaches?
This is one guy I keep hearing it. He wrote this book called Closing the Wealth Gap.
Yeah, where is this guy?
He's got this website, closingthewealthgap.us. Oh, and by the way, he also has an app. And right now, the only thing you have to do is text Tyrone to 36260. And his entire business is literally in the palm of your hand.
Talk about an extra service. You added an extra service to what you're doing. I don't have to just call you or email you. You're in the palm of my hand every time.
Paul, again, going back to that word as far as synergy and increasing the service. How can I increase my service today? That's how the book came into existence, or the creation. It started out as an idea or a thought. It manifested itself into this book, hard copy, soft copy. My website is just an extension of me increasing my service. My app is an extension increasing my service. So back in the day, you had these business cards, and you would pass your business card or give your business card to somebody. 9 times out of 10, it ended up in a trash can.
Yeah, right.
But now everybody has a phone. And so now they get your website. They're right there at your website.
And then when they go there, what do they say? Well, I got to have content then. I got to have stories. I got to have information. I got to have webinars. I got to have training. I got to have podcasts. I got to have all this content to fill up this connection, this communication channel.
Even on my app, there's a button that links my clients directly to the podcast.
See?
How can I increase my service, increase my value? And going back to Jim Rohn and his mentor, and he said, this is my paycheck. This is, I need more money, but this is all they pay. And again, it stuck with me. His mentor said, that's what they pay you. They're paying other people way more money than that.
Somebody
so when you want to increase your income, think about increasing your value. And how can I increase my service today? Which goes back to that one word. If you don't get anything out of this podcast today, I want you to think about that word, synergy.
Okay. All right. I will. I'll go look it up, because that sounds like one of those mysterious words I hear floating around. We had synergy. I don't know what synergy is.
And here's the thing, Paul. I used to try to give people all the answers.
Yeah.
And you can't do that because there's nobody on this planet that you can change. Not one.
Yeah. Yeah.
People have to want to change. They have to change themselves. And so they have to have skin in the game. And if you're giving them all the answers, they have no reason to get into activity. Mm-hmm. Because what they'll do is in their mind, they'll visualize and they'll fantasize and they'll create all these scenarios why this won't work.
Yes.
Versus getting the information, applying that information, having a certain level of success and saying, wow, yes, this works for me. This works.
So it starts by learning and listening, and then you got to put it into action.
You have to put it into action. There's a movie called The Secret that was out. It was very popular, and I know we were short on time. We got to go. But this, they were talking about the law of attraction. And the only fault in that movie, because the law of attraction is real. Mm-hmm. It's a thing, just like gravity. But what the step that they missed, they had the thought process in mind. They had the feeling, but they didn't talk about the action or the activity.
No.
And without that, you don't have any growth. You don't have the manifestation. It's not going to happen.
I can't just think about planting. I got to put some seeds in the ground. Oh boy. And then I got to water them once in a while. Well, keep coming back, because this is how we plant some seeds in your head and how we're going to water them in your life here. Tell us how we get in touch with Tyrone French, the wealth coach.
I want you to text Tyrone to 36260, or you're going to go to my website, closingthewealthgap.us.
Okay, it's that simple. If you can take that step, then you're halfway there. Closing the wealth gap. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Paul.
That's our show for this week. Closing the wealth gap. The one show, the only show that shows you how to take control of your financial future. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.